Hello. How are we all? How are we all doing? Slaving away at your film? Oh yeah. It depends on the length of the film, but it's one of the reasons why films are actually broken down. Like, for editing and filmmaking, there's a reason why they maintained the same sort of processes and flows as what you do for live theatre. So it ends up being one of those things where it's like you break your, like for live theatre they're broken down into acts. You kind of do the same thing for your filming and then you apply the same principles to your editing. So you focus on editing one thing at a time. How am I doing? I'm doing alright. Like, realistically, the complexity of video editing comes down to the story that you want to tell, and if you need to make any sort of enhancements to the film itself. Cut and splice. What software are you using, Silence? VSDC. Never heard of it. Fair enough. I know in the past that Adobe used to have a student license where you could get access to the Adobe suite for free, but I think they started charging money for it a few years ago. It's still at a discounted rate, but yeah, it doesn't really end up being worth it. Hello! Gonna butcher this name, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Zuffa. Zufia? Thank you very much for the raid, mate. Actually, I should check to see if this works. I forgot that I think I set this up. It's been a while since I've tried this out, so let's see if it works. Hey, it did. Although it didn't actually take your name. Does that actually go to your stream? Let me check. Is that the right person, or did it just go to some random? It's gotta be the right one. Yeah, it's the right one. How's your stream, mate? No worries. Thanks for dropping in. Alrighty, well, I forgot that you can actually just click on people's names to see them. Alright, so, yeah. Where was I? Yeah, Adobe Premiere, or sorry, the Adobe Suite used to be free for students, but I think they then switched to a payment model, but it's a heavily discounted one. Alright. Let's normally for the first like 15 minutes of the stream I spend some time just shooting the shit. And we're actually coming up on that 15 minutes now. So Nelson was, what was it, the last thing? Nelson had a unique hit, but he couldn't edit. There's nothing going on this week. Yeah, that's the problem. This week was pretty quiet. Well, I'll answer silence first. So the Mongrel Squad logo has been updated. We had our birthday about a month ago now, about 3 weeks ago. Org birthday, and for us, we updated our logo to include 3 new accoutrements on it. So one of them's the blood tier, which represents us raising the red flag for 318 onwards. And the tiers of Stanton. Then there's a notch in the bottom left portion of one of the crossbones that represents our war against the overlords. And then the last one was a crack on the top left crossbone, which represents the fracture that we had in Mongrel Squad around April, May. Execute! Hello! We're in the eye of the storm before CitizenCon. Yeah, we're in the eye of the storm for CitizenCon, but we're also towards the end of a patch cycle as well, so everything's just... Oh, I couldn't find the diagram, but you guys know the diagram for Star Citizen. It was, we're kind of like in the final stage before we get a new patch, so everything's boring, everybody's complaining about everything. And we're kind of just sitting here waiting for the next thing. Alright, so there was another question there that was asked. The real martygen. Are there any chances in 320 that will piracy more efficient? That will make piracy more efficient? Yeah, Nelson's pretty much got it. The cargo boxes and the what was it, the combat logout timer. Although there's a issue that's cropped up out of that, and we don't know if CIG's addressed it or not. That being able to bedlog in armistice zones, which is a problem. Actually, I'm surprised I didn't add that to my fucking lineup of things to react to. All right. Yeah, Nelson, we already know all that too. We did all that testing as well. And like, I would link to Cutlet's video. In fact, I'll link to it now. I'd rather people go and watch Cutlet's video than me react to it. Purely just so that he's getting the traffic. He put the time and effort into the video and the testing and all that to put it up on his channel. So I'm not gonna steal his thunder on that one. If you guys want to see the details on the combat login stuff there, that's Cutlet's video to it. He does testing with it and an investigation into, you know, the parameters for combat logging, how it works. Highly recommend that you guys go and check that out. Stay. Alright. Yeah, that's really about it for piracy gameplay. Like, not much is changing for us, other than moving boxes isn't going to take us fucking like 2 hours. Actually, you can normally get it down if you got enough people there and a good crew that's experienced at moving boxes. You can move an entire C2's worth of S1 SU boxes, which is 696. You can move them in roughly 50 to an hour. If you do it in space. If you do it on the ground, then the ship's going to eventually explode. Practical Gas had a fun hit this week. Hit someone with 2 escorts. Man, that's what I'm hoping to see more of. That's what we need to see more of. No one is playing Star Citizen, everyone's playing Starfield. I feel like if you took all of the loading screens in Starfield, you could boot up Star Citizen and play both games at once. And during the times when you're in a loading screen in Starfield, you can bounce back to Star Citizen and do something there quickly. But yeah, Martigan, like the 32 SU boxes, it is going to be a problem because you do need a C2. And if we pirate a whole C, then bloody yeah, like you need C2s because you can't take a whole C to an NQA terminal to sell the stuff. We did tests with trying to sell from a whole C directly, took it to an outpost, landed it as best as we could, and the outpost just would not recognize the ship. And realistically, there's only one route that you really want to be hitting anyway. That's from Virginia to Hurston. Because that's where they got Hephaestonite, and they're going to be trading that between Virginia and Lorville. And the problem with that is that if the haul is smart and they know what's going on, all they have to do is just deviate their course by, 1,000 kilometers. You're not going to get them. Not over those distances. It's one of the extreme limitations of the Mantis and its snare is that the point of convergence requires such a narrow margin of error as you as the distances between your start and end points increase, the margin of error that you have to account for narrows. So you have to almost be bang on every time. And because we can't predict, the direction that somebody is going to go in when, if they're going to dogleg their jump, there's no way that we can, reliably interdict them. "100%, I'd love to see that sort of thing there, Martigan. Unfortunately, mate, we don't know anything about long-range scanning. We don't know anything about ship tracking. We don't, CIG just hasn't talked about it, and normally the reason why they haven't talked about it is because they haven't even looked at it themselves yet. It's just one of those things where we can sit there and hope for the coolest mechanics possible, but unfortunately it's until CIG's putting something in front of us, we're kind of just sitting here waiting, hoping. But we can still make piracy work. It's not being able to hit whole seas reliably is just more of a pain than a game breaking issue. The way I see it, we're always going to be able to find someone to pirate somewhere. You just got to look. And more than likely, a lot of players are still under the impression that pirates are a myth, and if we hadn't been putting our videos out, then they'd probably still believe that. the reality is, though, is that there's still a huge, significant portion of players who have just never encountered a pirate player ever in game. Yeah, Silence, I think they're being a bit facetious when they say that there's no piracy. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, they never encounter it, so as far as they're concerned, it just doesn't exist. I don't mind the C2 limitation to pirating a whole sea. The trader has invested probably a few mil in its cargo, so there should be some extra effort involved to steal it. Yeah, well, here's the problem that we're facing, and I'm actually going to be bringing this up in the State of Piracy post that I've been drafting for 319. And we encountered this issue, and we're going to encounter it again for 320, and it's the commodity profit margin equivalency problem. I'm still working on the name for it, but that's the most succinct way that I can describe this issue. The problem that we've got is that there are other commodities in game that have a comparable profit margin that costs less to buy. And we experienced this around the what was it? We experienced this around the time where it was what was it, during Invictus Week? When they had the additional commodities there that you could trade. And the thing is that what we experienced was that people were able to make, you know, almost the same amount of credits as they could trade in helium in comparison to trading barrel, but they, you know, weren't even spending close to a tenth of the amount of what you would have to spend if you were buying barrel. So the profit margin was nearly the same, and it's great for them because they're making a good profit. But if we hit them, we don't make, you know, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for us. So they're making a good profit margin, but if we hit them, we don't make a good profit margin. Like, we're better off hitting commodity haulers who are moving higher value commodities. Helium obviously is not one of them, and when we sell it, it's, you know, like us if we pirated somebody carrying aluminium. It's just not worth our time and effort, especially with the smaller boxes. And even with the larger boxes, like, the time it takes to unload a C2 is the same regardless of the cargo type that's on it. So if it's, you know, 696 gold, or 696 SU of gold, or 696 you know, SU of helium, it's still the same time to unload those two ships. Now, if the profit margin for buying and selling helium is better than for buying and selling gold, there's no reason why players would buy and sell gold. Not in this current commodity. Motar, thank you very much for the sub, mate. It's not worth our time and effort to go and hit somebody moving helium. Yeah, exactly, Sora. Like, even hitting C2s full of fluorine. And we were mainly doing that for the experience. And it was like, holy shit, you know, there's somebody that we can pirate. Let's pirate them and move the boxes. And, you know, bloody, we got 319 and we're just sitting here hating life now. Now we got 320 and we're all like, yes, finally less boxes, but still the same problem. Where commodity profit margin equivalency can actually break piracy if CIG doesn't balance the economy well enough. And in this case, it's not really about balancing the economy, it's just making sure that if somebody's buying something that's worth a lot, they're able to sell it for a lot more so that they're encouraged to buy the expensive stuff. Because if the profit margin for something that's cheaper is the same as the profit margin for something that's expensive, then always going to go for the cheaper option. And for pirates, that doesn't help us. Total lack of scanners. No, we had scanners, Sorrel. They work whenever they want, and you need to pretty much be right up their ass. And by that stage, you're already committed, so you might as well just follow through. Practically yes. Also, a lot of victims who thinks pirate players are NPCs. It doesn't help that we also encourage them to think that. I've done that quite a few times. Yeah, I'll link this. My plan had been to start with a particular subject, but I'll link this post here, and I'll quickly switch over to the reaction view. Alright, I wasn't actually planning on starting with this one yet. But this was a response, and it's to the quality of life. What's it called? Yeah, Patchwatch, Alpha 320 Patchwatch, quality of life. I've added all these things. I mainly responded to the combat logging one. The rest of them, I'm not really bothered. Even the MFD persistence, like people were going, yeah, this is great, and it's like losing and claiming insurance will create a new vehicle, thus losing the saved custom MFD. It's like, mate, don't be happy that you get to keep, set up all your MFDs and, they'll persist. With Zeus, the first RSI ship, in what capacity would you like to talk about that there, Execute? I'll leave you to type that out, mate, and I'll quickly write this out, or read this out. I see leaks found Zeus M2 in the code. What? I'm interested, but I do have to forewarn you that I'm Evacardi, and I need to be very careful when it comes to showing off leaks and things like that. Silence, I believe that's actually being processed right now. But yeah, the combat logging, anti-combat logging, which I'm ecstatic that they actually added this. Like, we've been wanting this particular bit of tech in the game for fucking ages. Like combat logging, alt F4ing, trying to bed log or anything like that. Just trying to avoid the consequences of your actions. I don't care if you're a hauler or a bloody criminal or, just another player in the game. You're all still people. If you're trying to avoid the consequences of your actions in PvP combat by just bitching out and, trying to quit out of the game, then, they've added this, anti-combat logging thing. And all it is that your avatar persists long enough that somebody can kill you. This is really for bounty hunters. For pirates, 9 times out of 10, by the time we get on the ship, they'll still disappear. Now, Cutlet, I linked it earlier. Cutlet actually put a video out about all the tests that he'd done for combat logging. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. It's actually Nelson, I believe. He's linked a clip, but there's also a YouTube video. But I'm just going to read out my little snippet, because we did a whole bunch of testing, and when I found this, I'm like, holy shit, we need to get this addressed. And somebody had already made a IC report, which is why I linked it. So I turn around, I say, as a response, this is great, but you guys have turned bed logging back on for inside of outpost armistice zones. Now, COG hasn't said anything about it. They haven't said anything about it when they changed it in I think it was 3.18. They never said anything about it then. And they haven't said anything about it again now. And it's just you know, before they turned it off, now they've turned it on, and we're in this situation here where it's like, what the fuck, CRG, what are you doing? You know, talk to us. Apparently I've got an ad that's about to start, even though my incoming ad break said that it was supposed to not be starting for 2.5 minutes. I'm trying out Twitch's ad system, and I'm also trying to use it as a method of gating me and the way that I'm, or what I'm talking about too. Okay, it hasn't started the ad, so I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to talk about this for the next 2 minutes, and then when we come back from the ad, we'll actually move on to the next bit of content to talk about. So I continue. Whilst a player can't log out on the landing pads, they can land next to them and log out with their ship immediately despawning from the server. This is a huge issue for piracy gameplay, since hiding inside of an outpost armistice zone is a common tactic that has appeared in 3.19 that ill-prepared players use to avoid having to deal with pirates. They will sit there in the hopes that the server will 30k and they can leverage the recovery system to get their ship and cargo back. The only reason why they had to sit there and wait was because they couldn't bedlog and move to another server, thus not allowing them to bypass the entire encounter. In 3.20, they will now be able to bedlog and bypass the entire encounter, and I would hazard a guess that buying cargo, bedlogging, switching regions will become a standard method of operating for haulers to avoid pirates as much as possible. CIG is intent on making players having to face consequence of their actions/inactions with anti-combat logging measures, then the status quo of not being allowed to bedlog in any armistice zone needs to be maintained from 3.19. Arclight. Like, Arclight always makes a point of responding. If anybody talks about piracy or PvP against other players, he does make a point of responding. To me, he's just another one of the Spectrum dwellers. I've kind of just gotten used to him. Like, it's quite clear that this guy just doesn't want PvP, and yeah, that's okay to a certain point, but to continue pushing that agenda doesn't help. Anyway, if you guys can, if you agree with what I'm saying there, feel free to go to that link that, if you scroll up in the chat, go to the link, click on it, upvote. It helps get gain some visibility on it, and you know, like, this is just a temporary measure for now. All right. We've got an ad break starting in like 5 seconds, so I'll see you guys after the ad break. Is the ad break running? Was I supposed to run the ad break? There we go. CIG has introduced a lot of improvements for ground vehicle handling. Silence has no ad. Maybe your ad block. Is your ad blocker running too? You don't have one? Maybe it's just Twitch being Twitch. Nelson subbed, yeah, so anybody that subbed shouldn't see it. Always be a divide in stars as an audience. Majority of players enjoy all multiplayer and single player activities, but there are those who would love Star Citizen be a co-op game where other players are never dangerous, which of course would be boring as batshit and CIG knows this. Yeah, they already there's already a game that that's effectively dead because of that mentality. Welcome back, everybody. Hello. So that's that post there. I'm going to switch back to my face cam. You added an ad at the beginning, so maybe that helped. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know anything about Twitch's, the way that Twitch operates. I mainly came across from YouTube to Twitch because it has the more captive audience for Star Citizen. For live streaming anyway, for long form content, YouTube's the place to be. So the next bit of content that I'm going to be reacting to is this post. Oh, it's a persistent universe needs purpose. I'm gonna need to use these, although perhaps less with 320. Yeah, nah. You're gonna be using those a lot. See, there's what we experience in the PTU, and then there's what we experience in live. So, I thought this was an interesting Spectrum post, where somebody was sitting there saying the persistent universe needs purpose, because I've heard this argument heaps and heaps of times. The title interests me, so that's why we're here. I want to read through it and see how this actually plays out, because I do have a thought process on this, because I'm one of those crazies that plays Star Citizen a lot, although recently I haven't played it that much. Yes, it is. The thing is though is that it's had some recent replies to it. Where is it? Sort by new. Or apparently not. Probably a nested reply. Anyway. That desperate for content? No. I just thought this was an interesting topic. So, this is a bit of a long post. It has probably been said before, but I do not live on this forum, so I'm leaving this as feedback for CIG. I know they probably won't read it. I would, if I was CIG, I'd stop reading immediately after that sentence. Be like, okay, I'm being given permission. Playing Star Citizen and enjoying Star Citizen are two different things. Also, it goes without saying, but the stuff below is highly subjective. It's my opinion. You are obviously free to disagree. I'm glad I have your permission. Loops and ships. Thus far, CIG has provided content for the PU chiefly through implementing or modifying gameplay loops and releasing vehicles or equipment. The list seems fairly robust when one takes stock of all the content in the Star Citizen persistent universe. There are ships that can effectively fight, haul, mine, salvage, refuel, or race. Missions vary from chiefly delivery, ground combat, space combat, cave diving, and racing. You forgot delivery missions. Oh no, there it is right there. Chiefly delivery. Just say from delivery. Anyway, players can log in and have wildly different experiences depending on the activities they choose to pursue. There is even the Spectre of PvP. Spectre, it's fucking right there front and center. And the ability to bump into about 100, possibly soon to be 200 other folks. This must have been around the time that the rumors started getting around about ETF testing 200 player servers. Moreover, additional ship functionality and mission types are coming. Soon we may even have missions that utilize ground vehicles to greater effect. The SC community is also waiting with bated breath for Pyro, its second star system. New ship mechanics are coming. This includes master modes and other bits. The content cycle. However, I do not think any of this new content will make the PU in any way more compelling for more than a patch cycle at a time. Hear me out. Time and again, CIG releases some sort of new content, Jumptown, Siege of Orison, some ship racing, etc., and players engage with it when the patch hits. After engaging with the content for a week, maybe two, many folks take breaks until a new bit of content is released by CRG for them to try for a week or two. In fact, this is often the accepted wisdom on these forums and Reddit. Getting tired of SC, just take a break and come back in a patch. My take is thus. Even if they quadrupled the number of ships, mission types, gameplay loops, or star systems, the game would not be any more engaging past the week or two most players will use to check it out. They can put in hacking, data running, animals, medical ships, exploration gameplay, and so on. Each feature will grab attention for a patch cycle, then many folks will start taking their breaks. The PU is stuck in the cycle where they release some disconnected bit of content, we consume it, and then that's it. There's no reason to do it again other than to experience it once in a while. Some may say that the answer is the ship grind, but even ignoring ship sales, that is ultimately a ultimately very finite experience. Ultimately, what the PU needs is not more content, it needs compelling reasons to engage with that content over and over, even after the novelty wears off. But it's a sandbox. I can hear some folks now, but the PU is a sandbox. Well, yes, but even sandboxes need to give players meaningful reasons to engage with content. Yeah, I disagree with that. In fact, arguments can be made that sandboxes actually benefit most from long-term incentives. This is a bit of a stretch, but I have DM'd my fair share of tabletop role-playing campaigns in the past. Some were linear dungeon crawls or investigations, others were open-world sandboxes. I found that the sandbox campaigns required the most effort on me as the game master to motivate players. Since the sandbox was less like a ride they were on, the players needed to see impacts to their actions. They needed motivation to do X rather than Y. They needed to not just be presented options, but they needed those options to ultimately feel meaningful. In many ways, the Persistent Universe is like a horribly run sandbox tabletop campaign. Just a bunch of stuff you can do that feels meaningless. I can speak from experience that if I presented that to a group at a tabletop role-playing table, they would ask me to run something else. Come back to it because we're almost finished. Make it a game. I'm not sure what the answer is. Maybe now that we have persistence, they can start to work on personal habs. Then our effort could go into gaining and maintaining homesteads and operations. Quantum can possibly come into play, though I doubt it will do enough to motivate players on its own. I've heard the devs mention faction coming more prominently into the game for years now, still little movement there. Sadly, these sorts of things ultimately seem many years away. We keep getting new loops and new ships. I just don't think any of that stuff matters nearly as much as systems to make existing and future content meaningful. The excuse they keep giving is the person working on X is working on Squadron 42. It's disheartening. Please CRG, focus a bit more on giving weight to player action. This is what will elevate Star Citizen from an experience to a game. Please make it so we are more driven to engage with the content past the patch cycle. Implementing something like this could go a long way in making the game more enjoyable for all the folks that are waiting on Server Mission and Polarises. At the very least, please talk about this more. Let us know what you plan on doing to make gameplay feel more meaningful and engaging. Alright, first things first. A sandbox environment requires those who are engaging in it to have the motivation to want to play within it. And to find that motivation, those players need to want to explore the sandbox, which means that they're going to have to do investigations and ask questions. If you are finding yourself and you're running a campaign as a DM and you're running an open world sandbox type campaign and you're having to guide your group along, then it's more than likely one or two things. One, the group is just not that type of player where they will want to investigate things, or two, you suck at being a DM and you're not engaging your audience enough. You're not, tabletop games are about, the theater of the mind, so you're not being engaging enough with your with the party at that table and selling to them, because that's what you're doing as a DM. You're selling them the vision of what you're creating, of the world that you're immersing them in. So if you can't do that, of course they're going to get bored. Of course you're going to have to string them along and lead them along. That said, you know, sometimes you just have to do it because them trying to do something in your open world campaign as a DM, you need to stop them from doing something that breaks the game completely. Or, you know, normally the best way I've always found to be a DM is just let them go wild, and if they start, you know, bloody going too far, then you rein them in with even more wild consequences, and you know, they start learning. It's like, all right, I shouldn't be stupid because the game reacts to my stupidity with even more harsher consequences than what I would experience otherwise. So yeah, like this particular situation here, like their motivation, essentially what they want, and I say this about a lot of players, and this is predominantly the PvE audience, they want their content spoon-fed to them. They want to be told what to do. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. The main issue comes on the developer in that if they have a heavy PvE focus, they have to keep adding content. And there's only so many ways that you can dress up a delivery mission. You know, take 10 apples from bloody one town to the other. Bloody take this goat from one town to another. Bloody, when you take this goat to that town, bring back, you know, milk the goat and then bring the milk back from that town back to the other. There's only so much content, PvE content, that you can push into a game, and this is where you start looking at the end game content. It's actually one of the reasons why Star Citizen having an economy is really important, and there are points that I agree with this person with here, like where was it? Saw it a moment ago. Here. Personal habs, I'm not too bothered by. Like, I don't really care about the personal habs thing. But having something that you can call your own is probably what I would say is, you know, something that a lot of players would find value in. And that's really what you need to be looking at if you're coming at this from a game design perspective, is what value can you add to the game that motivates the player to want to pursue that and do so over and over and over again. It's actually one of the reasons why you'll hear within game design that with some games they make PvP the end game because it's easier to create a closed PvP loop and just have it run the same thing over and over again. But because it's player versus player, you can't always predict the outcome. It can be varied, and that's when, you know, the designers can get in there and tweak. They can observe what's going on and tweak the dials a bit to, you know, balance things and change your outcomes. So, you know, this is one of those situations where it's like, this person is onto something. You know, Quanta does have a place in achieving this, but at the same time, like, this person throughout this entire post is talking about Star Citizen as though it's a finished game. They're just talking about it like it's a finished game, and it's not. Like, all these separate mechanics and things like that that have been added to the game, that's because they're still building it. It's not because they're incompetent and don't know what they're doing, although sometimes they give off that impression. It's because, you know, they're building the game still. So we needed physicalized cargo before salvaging could really be a thing. Because, you know, when you do hull scraping and the box poops out a box full of RMC, you need to be able to move it. And prior to, you know, salvaging and physicalized cargo, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So, you know, physicalized cargo was something that became a dependency for salvaging. That's something that I think this person is ignoring. Like, that said though, like there are, I think CIG could aim for, you know, low-hanging fruit. I'm gonna butcher your name here, mate, but what? Rootavers? I'm gonna kill. I was about to say I'll call you wheelbarrow with a W, but wheelbarrow starts with a W. If you feel free to correct the name for me, mate. But yeah, like what old Woot here is saying. To find Dutch name hard for English speakers. Okay, yeah, I don't speak Dutch at all, so that explains everything. Mainly a miner, ores and gems alike, would love to see shortages in certain ores and get asked by missions / increased prices to mine and look for specific ores. Yeah, like, I don't see any reason why CIG wouldn't implement something like that. And it doesn't have to be, you know, hugely complex either. It could be like, hey, the Arcot mining is, you know, running low on titanium because of fucking, you know, a vandal attack in this other system, and the UEE got fucked up, so they need to build a whole bunch of ship chassis. We need all the titanium that we can get. We're paying double the amount for the next, you know, weekend. And this is how much we need. You know, and just leave it going there for the entire bloody, you know, for a weekend or something like that. And there's a bar that fills up. Everybody contributes to it, regardless of the server that you're on. If you want to engage in that, fine. If you don't, don't. Then you can do a counter mission if you want. You know, Ninetales. Ninetales picks up. And then create a, like, a bloody titanium shortage for cargo haulers as well. Pretty much all the titanium's been rediverted. COG could do something like that. From a game design perspective, that is easy for them to implement. From a technical aspect, we don't know if they've actually built that tech. That stuff would make mining T3 ores more interesting as well. Yeah, like you can give purpose to, you know, commodities or, you know, materials that are not really that desirable. I'm gonna switch over to the face cam now. Like, I'm not going to go through the replies here because it's pretty much just people who, you know, people who I believe don't have much of an imagination. Because my opinion when it comes to sandbox games is that you have to have an imagination in order to be able to get the most out of it. For us, piracy gameplay has been one of those loops where it has been super engaging up until the start of this year, where they simplified it. And from that point, it kind of just started petering out. And it's not COG's fault in the sense, like, you know, they did this all on purpose. It's that they introduced mechanics, because piracy is a gameplay loop that doesn't have dedicated mechanics. It utilizes other mechanics to be able to achieve piracy. You know, physicalized cargo is something that cargo haulers, salvagers, you know, miners all interact with. So do pirates, because that's our, you know, what we're after. Combat is something that bounty hunters and pirates engage in. You know, QED is not a pirate only mechanic. It's not a bounty hunter over mechanic. QED, quantum enforcement devices, they're just a component, a part of a mechanic that anybody can use. And when you start thinking about Star Citizen in terms of systems that are separate from each other and treating them like they're Lego blocks to be able to build loops, like a lot of the time they don't fit together that well. But for piracy, you know, you can make it work. And for bounty hunting, you know, in 320 with the combat logout timer, we expect to start seeing bounty hunting crews getting around with QED. Because they know that even if the person tries to, you know, Alt F4, combat log, or do any of that shit, they're going to be able to get the kill. Because that's the main problem that bounty hunters have had, is that even if they use quantum enforcement, they couldn't get the kill. Right now you think piracy is the easiest it will ever be? 100%. We don't have, we don't have harsh resistance coming from the AI yet. We don't have reputation that follows us around as individuals and as organizations. The outposts are still using hard armistice zones, whereas realistically they should have turrets and missile turrets around them. They should be populated by more NPCs than the guy standing behind the desk, at one of the at the commodity hub. And they should all be motivated that if they start getting attacked, that they all gear up and get ready to repel, whoever's attacking them. Like, those are all things that should be happening, but CIG hasn't given that, purpose yet, because they're still building Star Citizen, but they're also building Squadron 42. Which is a frustration if you've been watching, my reaction content for a while now, or you just played Star Citizen with me enough, you know how I feel about Squadron 42. It's a fucking resource black hole that is just preventing the game that everybody wants from being built. And I cannot wait for Squadron 42 to just be done and out of the fucking way. Because once it's done out of the way, everybody just pivots and they're all on Star Citizen, and then it's not that it'll get done faster, but it starts getting the attention that it needs. That's another thing now as well, is like, what old mates talked about with, people who would come in at the start of a patch, play for a couple of weeks, and then come back for the next patch. Quite a few Mongrel Squad members were like that before they joined Mongrel Squad. And what they found was piracy gameplay being engaging enough to keep them interested in what was going on, because it was never ever the same every single time. But it was also the social aspect of it. Like, you have to work in a crew if you really want to get far as a pirate. Like, you could do piracy solo. Cutlet's proven it, Greasy Khaleesi's proven it, even Pro Finger Sniffer's proven it. You can do piracy on your own, but you can do a lot more and achieve a lot more if you're working with a group. That's why, one of the many motivations for posting our hits on YouTube is to show that teamwork aspect, that social aspect. We all work together, we all play together, we operate, in the verse together. We have a lot of fun doing it, and the experiences are normally not the same. And, people will reflect on hits that they were a part of, like, a couple of years ago. I still remember the first hit that we did on Salty Mike, Mic Drop on the Mongrel Squad YouTube channel. I recommend you all go watch it. Blasting away in cyclones across the bloody hot deserts of Ariel to go and conduct a boarding action on Mike's bloody Carrack, and then watching it take off and having our sentinels come in and pretty much punch it back down to the ground with distortion damage, and just watching it like just fall out of the sky as we're screaming along on the ground. That particular hit, Mike, I think, blocks out of his head because he tried fighting back, couldn't, and then when he tried getting out of the turret, he fell out of the turret and died. So it ended up being shit for him. Like, it's his, the second hit that we did on him, Mic Drop Volume 2. Mic Drop 2. That one he remembers. That's his favorite hit. Like, he still lost the encounter, but he enjoyed himself because, he finally stopped doing this thing. And I think a lot of players, do this now, where they take it just a little bit too seriously when it comes to them losing. Like, they're getting attacked by, a group that outnumbers them. The gameplay's being interrupted, and they're getting upset that the gameplay's been interrupted. And what Mike ended up doing during Mic Drop 2 was he just, went, you know what, I don't give a fuck anymore. Pulls out his railgun and starts going ham. And he had fun. Yeah, and that's the thing, Sorrel. And like Sorrel says it, he stopped being a victim. And that's part of the, it's a mentality shift that I think a lot of players in Star Citizen need to adopt, is like, stop thinking of yourself as a victim. You're not. You're a participant in this game as well. Regardless if you like it or not, you have the ability to, participate in what's going on and potentially change the course of what happens. But you have to be willing to try. And if you're not, you're just going to, lose the encounter. You're going to have a shit experience. And at the end of the day, the only person that you can really blame for that is yourself. I always say this, there are only two parties that are responsible for your fun when you're playing a video game. The game developer and you. There's only so much that the game developer can do though. If you're just there shitting on a game, then it doesn't matter what, what that game developer does, you're just going to have a shit time. So shifting your mentality and focusing on just finding the fun in the game helps with, the issue of sitting there going, oh, there's no purpose for the persistent universe. And I know that there's some players out there, like there's some professional loops where it's like mining is just break rocks, refine rocks, sell rocks, make numbers go big in your wallet. Well, piracy is find other people, move boxes, find other people, stop their ship, board their ship, kill them, move their boxes, make your numbers in your wallet get bigger. But what we're really focused on is the encounter that we're having during that entire process. Like, realistically, we don't need to move the boxes, we don't need to sell them. Once we've pirated someone, we've got the encounter that we wanted, we could just leave it all there and find the next person. But for us, it's part of the process, like going from start all the way through to the end. Because we are still in the testing environment. Even the live environment is a testing environment. So we'll test all the way through to the end. We find somebody, we'll interdict them, we'll disable them, we'll board them, we'll take their stuff, we'll sell it, and then we'll move back out. And we'll repeat that process over and over again. Just to, see what happens if we break something along the way. And if we can replicate it, we report it. And it's all in the effort of making Star Citizen a better game for the future. So that when our great-great-grandkids are playing it, they'll be able to find purpose in the persistent universe because it'll be a flawless game. Now, apparently we're about to go into an ad break in the next 16 seconds. So, sticking with the current theme, I'm going to be ending this particular topic here. For those who are subscribers, you guys shouldn't see the ads at all. For those who aren't, sorry, I'm just trying this out. I don't know how it actually works. So it should pop up any second. So yeah, that was, it was an old post too. I didn't actually pay that much attention to the date, Nelson. I just thought the subject was interesting. You're the main character. Yeah, you can be the main character with everyone else. Everyone's the main character. Star Citizen's a socialist bloody experiment where everybody gets to be the main character. Just pouring myself a drink at the moment. Who's still here, by the way? As in, can see into the window here. Right, we're coming back in 10 seconds, everyone. Nelson's not here? Nobody? Okay. Nobody can see it. The ad break has ended. Your community is back. Hello. Welcome back, everyone. So, I'm going to move on to the next bit of content, and this one's going to be a bit different. It's kind of along the same vein of what I've done for the last couple of weeks, where I've taken a subject and I've broken it down. So this one is a bit, can be a bit all over the place, but the general theme is, I don't know why, but it seems like there was a lot of players who were expecting 4.0 to come out this year. Now, I could understand if it was based on the on one of the letter from the chairman posts that was made, and they only focused on that, which I actually touch on. I'll be linking that Spectrum post, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to link. I only have the URL prepped a bit better than this, but I'm going to link where this starts. Well, here's the thing, Fran. We were all expecting that. We were all expecting 4.0 to come out 3 years ago. You know, like what was it? When we got 3.0, it was supposed to be like a bloody, you know, huge gameplay milestones being added every 3 months. Was it 3.2 was supposed to get like fucking bloody salvaging and all that sort of stuff, and we only got it like at the start of this year. But that's not our fault. We were told that they were doing that, so we all just assumed and trusted that CIG knew what they were on about. Right? Right? We all know better now. But this kind of starts it. So we start here. Communicate the 4.0 delay. It's become clear that 4.0 is not coming this year, and that we're getting 3.21 instead via CIG comments. This should be addressed now, because as it stands, it looks like the bad news is being delayed until after the CitizenCon and IAE sales. 4.0 was never announced to be coming out at the end of this year. And I'm going to go to the next Spectrum post to talk about this, because this person also brings it up. Now, grab this one here. This one's a bit ambiguous. I need to work on the title so that people are more inclined to engage with the post. This is this was the first post that I found, and this kind of got me started investigating what was going on. This is what I was spending a couple of hours doing before the stream. So I'm going to link this thread here if you guys want to have a read of it. But I'm also going to read this one out. So, a letter published on May the 18th, 2022. So this was last year, halfway through last year. This is the most recent one I could Google. In this snippet, it says we should have had server meshing at the latest Q1 of 2023. We are now pushing into 2024 with no word on server meshing or 4.0. Can we expect a similar letter soon telling us Q1 of 2025? I don't know what to trust anymore if we can't even trust a word straight from the mouth. They also made an edit, also a snippet from the 30th of December 2022 letter, the most recent, which says the exact same thing. No, it does not. It actually says something different. And this is a problem, because this is actually spreading a bit of misinformation. So what I did was I went and looked up these letters, because they provide a screenshot, and this is a problem that I have. If you're gonna fucking post something on Spectrum and make an assertion, post a link to the the information source as well, because all it does is just make it look like you're supposed to, that you're making an assertion and expecting people to believe you because you're saying it. No one knows who the fuck you are. No one cares who the fuck you are. If you're going to make an assertion and say, CIG said this, then provide the proof of them saying it. Otherwise, all you're doing is spreading misinformation. And yes, server meshing was supposed to be slated for ETF. So we're actually going to go to the letters from the chairman, because that's where they came from. So it should be this one first. Oh, I think I just moved my spot. So this one is where they were talking about. So this particular one here, I'm going to link it for you guys. I'm dropping bloody heaps of links, by the way. When I put this across to YouTube, I will be including these links as well. But I'm trying to kind of get through this fast because I've only given myself half an hour to go through this. Anyway, so this is from the 18th of March. This is the snippet that this person took here. So if I go search our current, here we go. So it starts here. This is what they're talking about here. So this is from May, or roughly the middle of last year. The current goal is to introduce server meshing and 4.0 as an early technical preview to Evocati testers in the PTU at the end of Q4 this year, allowing our most ardent players to help us start testing server meshing so we can refine and polish it for release. But this is heavily conditioned on how well/easy the persistent entity streaming rollout goes. That's a key sentence right there that seems to be ignored. Does anybody remember how 3.18 started? How well that went when it finally went fucking live? CIG was struggling with persistent entity streaming for the entirety of bloody 2022. And when we finally got persistent entity streaming, which is a dependency before we can move into server meshing, CIG essentially went, alright, we're putting it in there. Smooth like running over ice. It's like smooth like running over ice on the side of a mountain with jagged rocks everywhere. And you've got 2 broken legs and bloody you're blind. And you've got a head cold so you can't hear or smell anything. In the middle of a blizzard. You know? Like it's fucking, it was bad. But that seems to be forgotten by these people. So their goal was to have server meshing in the hands of the Evocati by the end of 2022. You only followed official CIG communication. Would you know if persistent entity streaming went good or bad? You wouldn't have a bloody clue. They mentioned it. They said that it didn't go as well as what they wanted. It was in a, I believe it was in one of their ISCs. I think it was the one about server meshing, you know, the part 1 that we all got, and then we were sitting there with that, we're still waiting with bated breath for part 2. Which we'll get soon, guys. Probably at CitizenCon. Fucking, oh god. As I say, you gotta be a glutton for punishment if you play this game. And just as much of a glutton for punishment if you want to believe CIG and everything that they're saying. It's not that they're intentionally lying, it's that, you know, I believe that they have big visions, big goals, and they're always looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses, and the reality that they are facing is that, you know, they understand it, they see it, they just are like, we're not going to let that get in our way, and, you know, they push, you know, aim for the stars, and then when they don't reach them, they still keep trying to push. And they also, you know, as part of their management plan for making sure that they don't get off track, they keep Chris Roberts away from the public as much as possible. Now, so be warned that it has a high chance of slipping into Q1 next year. So that's the start of this year that they were talking about. Now, the reality is that we didn't get persistent entity streaming until the end of last year, start of this year. And that was roughly around the time that we got Chris Roberts and his next letter from the chairman, and this one was dated the 30th of December 2022, linked right there. This is the update, and this is where they effectively told us that server meshing is being pushed back. And I'm not gonna lie, when I read this letter from the chairman, I was disheartened at the time. I'm sitting there going, holy shit, another fucking year. Let's see if I can find it, because I made actually links to it. Static server meshing. Right, so let's look up static. Here we go. Here we go, because I actually talk about it leading up to this particular comment. So if you look up the word static server meshing when you go to that page, you'll be able to read up on, you know, their plan for server meshing, and this is their timeline that they actually start talking about, which, you know, I made it linked up here, but he doesn't really go into much detail. And once again, they've just linked it here. They haven't, or they've just quoted it here. They haven't provided any links, which is important. You're going to make an assertion, provide the links. We are aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of players in the 4th quarter of 2023. Mind you, this was said at the end of last year, where they were finally putting persistent entity streaming into the game. PES was in the PTU for 3.18, and this was well before 3.18 had gone live and the servers shat themselves. So they had no idea how bad it was going to get. Well, actually, we assume that they had no idea that they knew how bad it was going to get. For all we knew, they knew exactly how bad it was going to be, and they just went, alright, we're just going to have to rip the band-aid off this one and deal with it. Anyway, we are aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of the players in the 4th quarter of 2023. The large caveat with this goal is that complicated engineering work that involves a completely new paradigm, requires a host of new backend services, and technology is hard to estimate and schedule accurately, as the issues and problems that can come up along the way are hard to foresee, as no one has implemented the system before, and plans rarely survive contact with the users, especially at scale. This has been true for PES, as it's no secret that we are hoping to have Alpha 3.18 and PES released to live by the end of the year, as opposed to just the PTU. Delays in finalizing 3.18 and PES impact the team's ability to start on the next stage, and we will have the unknowns of how PES performs after months of heavy load and people seeing exactly how much space junk they can leave around. So, into the hands of players the 4th quarter of 2023. Doesn't say anything about 4.0. Problem is that we all know that server meshing was a gate to 4.0, and that server meshing was also a gate to Pyro. Now, when they say put it in the hands of the players, that doesn't mean live. That could be PTU. They just read for players in 2023. Yeah. And the other thing as well is, like, this letter for the chairman was released before 3.18 went live, and the server's essentially dying. It was nearly, what, 2 weeks of just the servers being shit. Now, For all we know, they're aiming to put static server meshing and Pyro into the hands of players. That could just be ETF, like last year's plan was. Their plan for last year was to put server meshing in the hands of ETF before everybody else got it. They could be doing the exact same thing and they just shifted the plan 12 months. More than likely though, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people fully understand, more than likely they're saving this information for CitizenCon. Because realistically, the focus for CIG has been Squadron 42. That is their main effort. And Star Citizen kind of just, gets the scraps from Squadron 42 when it can, get them. But the tech, the groundwork for all the tech that Star Citizen's going to need to be able to handle the MMO part of how it functions, that's still being worked on. And we get, the occasional other mechanic. Star Citizen is a funding for Squadron 43. For 42. Yeah, it's going to be the funding for Squadron 43, 44, 45. They'll just keep milking that cash cow. Like, CIG didn't say that they were going to give us 4.0 at the end of this year. They definitely didn't say it was going to be live. I can see how people can come to that conclusion because of static server meshing and Pyro being the static server meshing essentially being the trigger point for 4.0 and Pyro being a dependency for server meshing. But, hands of players in the fourth quarter of 2023 could just be ETF like they had planned last year. That's where people need to stop jumping to these conclusions. Like, it's not healthy, it doesn't help. I know, like, people are, like, really wanting, the game to be finally finished. Everybody wants that. But you're not helping yourself. You're not helping your mentality, like, going back to the, previous bit of content that we reacted to where old mate was talking about purpose at Star Citizen, people saying, just come back in the next patch. It's like, it's perfectly legit advice. Even if you are finding purpose in Star Citizen, you may get disheartened because it's like, oh, fucking, it's just going to be the same thing for the next 12 months. Like, piracy encounters do become stale, or can become stale. Like, a lot of the hits that we've done over the last 3 months could have been, we might as well have been pirating the equivalent of NPCs. And them Alt F4ing out of the server was, essentially that AI crashing and just disappearing. How long can you expect people to continuously engage in that sort of gameplay before people, get bored of it? It's actually one of the reasons why, I watched, I was hoping that Starfield would be worthwhile, but unfortunately, it seems like, good old Starfield hasn't quite lived up to the hype. I'm quite confident that there's a lot of people out there enjoying it for what it is. But for myself personally, when it comes to Starfield in comparison to Star Citizen, I'll take Star Citizen any day. Starfield from a game design perspective has way more complete loops, but it should because it's a single player game, so you don't need to worry about networking code or anything like that. So you can create all these loops in isolation, you just got to make sure your AI is on point, which, it's not really anything. Starfield should just be called Field? No, Loading Field. Or Screen Field. Like when you think about it, like the process of, I was explaining it to somebody from my work, how Starfield plays out, because they were interested but they hadn't picked up the game yet. And it's like, it's just a lot of loading screens, man. Just so many loading screens. Which is a problem, because, you want to maintain engagement and immersion in your game, which is something that Star Citizen even in its buggy state, does really well. Now, there was one other little bit of... There was another bit of content I was going to tack onto this. Alright, yes. Now, I'm going to link to it first. This is a video from Cameron. It's going to be the only video for the entire stream. And I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed that he's on a bit of a warpath against CIG. He's a bit salty about how Star Citizen's going, the progress, or lack of. So, let me go back over to here. This is Cameron's video, and it's from, like, it's titled 319.1 Aaron Roberts internal email Starfield and no 4.0 this year. I've already watched this, so kind of know how it's going to go. But I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was a bit interesting. It's actually information from the Star Citizen links, but it's less about the game and more about internal company stuff. So I don't feel as bad talking about this particular topic because realistically, this is shit that we'd probably find out anyway.
Hello everyone. Once again, the Pipeline channel on Discord has something very interesting. This is supposed to be an internal email sent by Aaron Roberts. And he's talking about 3.20 and 3.21 and no word about 4.0 anymore. So looks like no pyro this year. As always, take this with a grain of salt because we cannot know if this really comes from Aaron Roberts, but it looks like it.
Hi everyone. Starfield's release has given us all a massive opportunity. From early gameplay reports, what has shown.
What's it doing 480p? Alright, you all should be able to read that now. Well, not really, but yeah.
Is how much more advanced and sophisticated our tech is, above and beyond we do it in multiplayer too, and how only Star Citizen can and will give players the opportunity to live and breathe in a huge open universe. No loading screens, no boundaries, limitless exploration. Live the dream. Because of our tech drive last year with persistence and the issues we have had to deal with through 3.18 and 3.19, 3.20 is our first real opportunity to really reignite our community's engagement, as well as hopefully start to bring in players who had higher expectations of Starfield. But it does not stop at 3.20 for this year. We have got the huge opportunity to continually improve our experience through our 3.20.1 patch for CitizenCon, our 3.20.2 patch for IAE, ending with our 3.21 patch for end of the year. Let's remind our community why they invested their time and money in Star Citizen. Let's build their excitement up again as we go into our first CitizenCon in 4 years. This is an opportunity we cannot miss.
I'm going to pause there before Cameron jumps in. So the dates that are essentially the patches are gated, and the 0.1 patch for CitizenCon, the 0.2 patch for IAE. Normally, when these events happen, CIG also does ship sales and releases, new straight to flyable ships. So we'll probably see some unannounced ships show up then, as a method of trying to motivate people and to buy up on Star Citizen. So referral programs and all that sort of stuff. If you've been tracking Star Citizen for the past few years, you know what I'm talking about. The usual thing that they do. Now, it's kind of like the title is clickbaity because it doesn't say, Cameron says no 4.0 this year, and it's like, well, CIG didn't have that planned out, to be 4.0. They were aiming for static server meshing and pyro, which they've told us in the past are the gates for 4.0, but they could be literally putting that into the hands of the ETF. And for all we know, like, they could put a 4.0 patch in the hands of the ETF whilst 3.2.1 is in the hands of everybody else, and server meshing and pyro are in the ETF testing, and they're just getting hammered away for like 3 months straight? We don't know. No one knows. CIG does, but they've got a better idea. But it's something to be cognizant of. CIG does have this habit where they go quiet and they stop talking about things, which is either indicative that they have it, want to try and save the information for CitizenCon, or they want to they're pivoting and they don't want to say anything because bad news is always bad for a business. Now we've got an ad break starting in 2.5 minutes, and we've got 3.5 minutes to go.
Well, let's unpack this. I still hope that Star Citizen will be a huge success and a fantastic game one day. No loading screens in Star Citizen, well, kinda. After a jump you don't have control over your ship for several seconds, but still this is a valid point. Why would anyone who has played Starfield look into Star Citizen? Yes, no loading screens, you can land everywhere, you can fly freely, which is very nice, but you also have the same repeating and boring and quite often very buggy missions. Lots of first iterations tier zeros thrown into the game in a half-assed state at best and left rotting in the rain for years. Star Citizen has one of the worst UIs in history of gaming, just look at Star Map or inventory system. Star Citizen has this terrible inner thought system. Picking up an item is quick and easy in most games, but not in Star Citizen. Star Citizen only has static worlds, we can only manipulate a very few items, almost nothing reacts to bullets. We have one tedious time sink on top of another tedious time sink, like immersive metro and elevator rides.
So, I don't know who's the context of this text here that Cameral's reading out. This is either his stuff or it's coming from somewhere else. I've just smoothed the ads for the next 5 minutes as well so that we can finish this off.
We still cannot even decide to spawn into the spaceport. We lose our items on death. Usually you cannot go back to your body or you get looted by someone else. Quite often we lose our ships because of bugs like running into invisible asteroids. Then you have to claim and wait 10 to 60 minutes until your ship is available again. Star Citizen is still missing basic mechanics and professions in year 11. I remember this very well in summer 2017.
Liddy, do we know when wipe is happening? No, we don't, Mikey. CIG will tell us a couple of weeks before the patch is supposed to go live. But then again, they've done it where they've told us a couple of days. I think one time they didn't tell us and they just did it. So normally when it comes to patch or new patch iterations, you'll normally lose all your consumables, but you'll keep your credits to the ships that you bought with in-game and all that sort of stuff. But CIG do try to announce it. Just the best mentality to approach a new patch is just assume that everything's going to get wiped and then be happy if it doesn't. Normally when people are playing the last few weeks of a live patch, they just focus on having fun and just doing dumb shit.
When we were waiting for 3.0, I told some online friends, I will show you 3.0 when we get it. I am very happy they never asked. Besides testing, checking out new things and making fun videos, I have zero desire to play this train wreck of a tech demo in year 11. Starfield is not a perfect game, far from it, but if you, Aaron, really believe anyone coming from Starfield would enjoy Star Citizen in its current form, you are deeply mistaken. Again, I'm not a hater, I like the idea of Star Citizen a lot, I spent a lot of money on this game, but if I look what we have in year 11 with $600 million, I am not exactly impressed. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know what you think.
Alright. Just going to pause here on this screen and go back through what Cameral's talking about, because I'm pretty sure this is Cameral's points. Same few repeating and boring, quite often buggy missions. Yeah, but they've been adding more missions. There's only so much that they're going to be able to add until server resources are going to be able to pick up. Lots of first iteration tier zeros thrown into the game in a half-assed state at best and left rotting in the rain for years. Yeah, no shit, they're still building it. Like, don't forget, they're also building Squadron 42. Like, there's 2 games being built at once here. It's dumb. As far as I'm concerned, CIG should be focused 100% on Star Citizen, because that's their fucking money, you know, that's their cash cow, but Chris Roberts wants his game. One of the worst UIs in the history of gaming. Just look at the star map or inventory system. I don't see an issue with the inventory system. Star map's terrible. It needs a lot of work. But we've also had that star map pretty much since 3.0 came out. And it hasn't had much work done on it at all. But yeah, the inventory system, it's good enough. It does what it needs to do. You may not be able to see the item UI all the time, but what more do you want out of a fucking inventory system? Attach stuff, detach stuff, move stuff from one box to another. Terrible inner thought system. Picking up an item is quick and easy process in other games, but not in Star Citizen. Yeah, because it's a fucking server-based game with some level of server authority. Like in other games, they relinquish some control over to the clients to provide a bit of speed, and then they have the server authenticate. Whereas in Star Citizen, they're still working that process out. Static worlds, we can only manipulate a few items, almost nothing reacts to bullets. So what? One tedious time sink on top of another tedious time sink, like immersive metro and elevator rides. We cannot even decide to spawn into the spaceport. It's a design decision. They could make it so that that could happen, but they chose not to. And yeah, just what do you want? Teleporting around? Like, it's designed the way that it is. Losing our items on death, you cannot usually go back to... pause this incoming ad break. We lose our items on death. Usually you cannot go back to your body or you get looted by someone else. Yeah, no shit, because that's the game, the way that the game's built. That's an actual design choice. Quite often we lose our ships because of bugs like running into invisible asteroids and you have to claim, wait 10 to 60 minutes until your ship is available again. That's pretty rich. Like, that's 10 to 60 isn't all of them. You can expedite. I know some of the larger ships you're waiting closer to the 60-minute mark, even after expediting the claim. But, you know, shit happens. Like, the game's not finished. Star Citizen is still missing basic mechanics and professions in year 11. No shit, because they're building 2 games at once. Back in 2017, when we were waiting for 3.0, I told some online friends, I'll show you 3.0 when we get it. I'm happy they never asked. Why? Why does that even matter? King Pekin. Hi, I'm new to Star Citizen. Can I be a mage? Yes, you can. And 100% be a mage. There's this item called a multi-tool. That's your wand. You want to attach the multi-tool tractor beam of movement, and that allows you to... You point it at objects, at a lot of different objects. You can move them around remotely like a Jedi. Is this game free to play? Only if you sell pictures of yourself on the internet and then use that money to buy the pictures that Star Citizen sells. Will you get death threats after reporting a homophobic 50-year-old? Only if you make the report to the homophobic 50-year-old. All right. Besides checking out new things and making fun videos, I have zero desire to play this train wreck of a tech demo in year 11 because you only focus on making videos. That's why. Instead of trying to play the train wreck of a tech demo. And that's the problem there, is the mentality that's being displayed. You're playing this, you're talking about this being a train wreck of a tech demo instead of trying to think of it like a game and play it like a game. Starfield is not a perfect game, far from it, but if you, Aaron, really believe anyone coming from Starfield would enjoy Star Citizen in its current form, you are deeply mistaken. Yeah, he's probably right there, because Star Citizen still isn't finished. People will be amazed if they get to play Star Citizen and it's not, like, everybody has their Star Citizen moment, and you know what I'm talking about. Everybody has a different one. Walking out onto a planet, or going out to your ship, taking off, going into space, going back down to a planet, landing, and then looking around, getting back in your ship, and then flying over the area that you're at, seeing a sunset on one moon, jump to another one, see the same sunset on a different moon or planet. It's one of those things where it's like, we will see a lot of people come across from Starfield. It's not going to be straight away, though. I think the sense of urgency that Aaron is giving this is probably a bit ambitious, but he's not wrong. Like, people are going to play Starfield. They're going to be like, I want more, but I'm tired of Starfield. They'll do all the mods that they can. I saw that there was an EVA mod for Starfield now. You can go EVA outside of your ship, and they reckon that you could also build on asteroids, which is cool. But, like, when people want more and they want to be able to play Starfield but with their friends, they'll find Star Citizen. And hopefully it's in a better state to keep and retain those players. Because if it's not, we'll probably see, just more content being made about how shit Star Citizen is. But, 4.0 wasn't going to come out this year. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'm really hoping that I'm wrong. But it's more than likely not. Star Citizen's progress has always been glacial, but it's always moved forward. Anyway, we're about to go into ad break. For those who have subscribed, you guys are still going to be able to see what's going on. But we're pretty much going to be wrapping up stream after this. We should be going into an ad break right about now. I delayed for as long as I could because I wanted to finish this particular subject off. Ad break ends in 1:30. Alright. That is pretty much it. Yep. I really didn't have much for this week either. Like, it's just, there really isn't much going on in Star Citizen at the moment. It's kind of sad to a certain point. Like, even the guys from Mongrel Squad are saying, like, we're not finding that many targets. Like, we're at the end of a patch cycle. We've got the PTU running. We've got CitizenCon coming up. Fucking, you got Starfield that's out that other people are playing, testing out and getting their gameplay experience out of that. Baldur's Gate 3, some people are still playing the fuck out of that. And, yeah, depending on what part of the world that you're in, things are either warming up or cooling down. So people are getting ready to go on holidays, or one way, for either to enjoy the warmer weather, or, enjoy the weather as it's cooling before it gets too cold. Alright, the ad break should have ended. The community is back. Hello. We're pretty much going to be ending the stream in the next 10 minutes or so. I don't really have anything more for you guys to react to, so if you got any questions, feel free to ask them. As I was saying before during the ad break, like this week was slow. It was a slow week. There really wasn't much to talk about there. They lost one of your PSU cables? Mate. Are you serious? Just go to the local electronics shop or just go find another piece of electronics and just start pulling wires out. You should be able to just wire it up yourself. Yeah, sounds smart enough. Yeah, it's not like you're playing with high voltage, you know, electronics or anything like that. You'll be right. Just make sure you earth yourself. You'll be fine. You make them pay for it. So for those who were here for the entire stream, what did you guys think of this format where I'm pretty much essentially just doing half-hour segments? Myself personally, I actually kind of like it. Kingy loves it. Nice and short. What are you trying to say, Kingy? You don't like listening to me talk? Just want me to keep it as short as possible? Ooh, Soriel's got a good question. I'm like an in-law, short and sweet. It was better than the old YouTube segments that went on for an indefinite period of time. Yeah, like, I'll admit, I do repeat myself a lot. So, I don't like using the ads, but it was actually a really good timer for me. And it prevents me from rambling. Yeah, I know. So, I think for the reaction streams, I'll definitely be sticking with the whole half-hour ad breaks. Which makes sense. You know, it's a long time for somebody to be sitting there paying attention. I don't notice it because I'm just sitting there drawing off the whole time. I can talk forever. Unless I start getting tired. Which is another reason why, like, I've stopped drinking while I'm doing this. Where did Dobbs go? It's too early for him in the morning to do this. And for me to do it at a time where he is available, it's too late in the evening for me. So we can't really line up our schedules, but also, like, Dobbs has his own things going on at the moment. So we had an issue in Mongrel Squad, and he took a break because of what had happened. But that also allowed him to focus on his real life stuff, which was building up anyway, because he's got work and things like that. So he's got a career path that he's pursuing, and he was actually really able to knuckle down and work on that, and it's actually helped him out a lot. And now, you know, he's come back to us, you know, he's active with Mongrel Squad again, but yeah, he's active, but not in the same capacity as what he was in the past. Like, I know he would have no issues jumping on, it's just the only problem would be is the time of day that would be doing it at, because it's like, it's only just getting to a reasonable time of the morning for him now. But I try not to speak for Dobbs either too much. Alright, Sorrel asks, how many more vids are in the queue that are viable? Can we get a vague tease as to why each one caught your eye? And he also says, and which ones never made it and why? 8 AM? Yeah. So when I started, it would have been 6 AM where you guys are at. Which is a bit early for dogs. Let's see, 1, 2. So currently there's 12 more videos in the lineup, although I'm still going to check off a few more that are on our OneDrive. Well, the videos that I chose, more or less I'm looking for, there's either variants in what type of hit it is. So if we're doing a leading snare, spline snare, curb stomp with distortion weapons, or you know, a curb stomp with bloody bricking the ship. If there was a boarding action, like there being a boarding action is actually a huge component of it. If there's any sort of, you know, ship combat that happens, you know, reinforcements show up or anything like that. If, you know, something really cool kind of happens, like, what was it, the hit on Phantom, what do I call that one? For me, I'm pretty much churning these videos out. Shh. Shut up. Shush. Shut the fuck up. No, not bad interference. That's the most recent one. Tough terrain. So tough terrain, that one. That was that I made a video of that one because it was an interesting hit. Unfortunately, I couldn't really highlight the part of how difficult it was for us just to get that cargo out. More glorious fuck-ups aren't always vid-worthy, but still worth a giggle and chat here. It's actually kind of weird, Sora. I don't really get the videos of where we fuck up, or, you know, like something bad happens. I don't think a lot of the guys want to make those videos or have those ones. Yeah, well, that's what tough terrain is. Tough terrain's that hit, and I really didn't end up highlighting the shittest part of that hit, and it was because it's just not interesting. And we missed the parts where, you know, the ship soft deaths and the target ship hard deaths, and like, I don't know, there's a part, I don't think I actually show it, but I think it was when I was arriving in my M2. It looks choppy, like the frame rate's dropping and dying, and that's because it is. For whatever reason, my game is just, you know, had a B-win of 6.5 megabits, just constant, which was tanking my frames, and I had to reboot my PC. Like, so much shit happened in that hit after, like, well, during I moved that cargo, but it wasn't interesting enough to put it into the video as part of the story, because most of the time people are just interested in the conflict part at the start, and then when we're moving boxes, it's like, yeah, we start moving boxes, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then, you know, we finally put the boxes on the other ship and then took off, and it's like, without the visuals, I didn't want to add it to the story. Yeah, the fuck up should go to Telva so they can do the Mongrel zaps. Though Telva's hat, what is it? He's on a laptop at the moment, so yeah. I don't think he can do much video editing. Being more specific teas of the upcoming videos, like the one that had the EVA grenade toss, anything interesting in the upcoming ones that popped? Well, you know, there's the hit that we had against Raziel, where we convince him to take off and bloody the whole chase. That one's going to definitely make it into a video. There's the next one that's actually going to go into the editing, into Premiere for me, is going to feature the hauler trying to camp Armistice and then pad ramming us. But for me, like, when I'm looking at these videos, like, avoiding action is a big one. Conflict, you know, fighting, something cool that happens, like the first one that we put out, so cargo exorcism, where the target stayed on the ship and they'll hide in it in the bunk room, trying to fight back, and Uchi almost got his ass shot out from underneath him. And then, you know, like the push down into the command module, the bedroom of the command module, to go and take him down. You know, that was a pretty big, you know, to me, like, it was only a small snippet of what happened, but, you know, from a gameplay perspective, those who do, you know, piracy hits know just how difficult it could be to go down that choke point. Because we could have lost, you know, our guys. Old mate was only in his starter suit, so he'd be able to pick up, you know, if he took out one of our guys, he'd be able to throw their kit on himself, and he'd be decked out, heavy armor, weapons, good to go. And they would have to try and funnel more guys into that choke point. And I think that's a point that's lost on a lot of people. But there is, like, what was it? I'm still collecting the footage for a recent hit, where the guys ended up fighting off another pirate crew, where they demonstrate essentially they've captured a prize, the other pirate crew showed up and they're hovering over the top. They transfer as much of it on as they can onto their own prize ship, whilst our QED gets into a fury and then goes fights them. And then, you know, our prize ship takes off, and then it ends up being this chase. And the escort, you know, tries to fight off the pirates, and I'll spoil it if I keep talking about it. Thing is that a lot of these hits go pretty quickly. What else is there? There's one where we make the target unload their ship with us. Another one where we where they're just ramming us. Like, you know, we've disabled them, they've come back in their ship, and their sole goal is just to ram. Like the, well, Kingy, he joined the auxiliaries afterwards. He's not very active there, but he joined. You know? Yeah, like, it's those types of hits, though, like, that we're kind of looking for. Because I've got footage of, you know, 30 hits that all pretty much go the same way, where we brick the target, or the target goes back into the atmosphere of Microtech, and they just aim straight at the ground. Or they try and initiate self-destruct, and we have to, you know, soft death them. And then they explode when they hit the ground, and we're just picking up the scraps. Like, I've got so many hits of just that particular thing. Like, the hit is like, I could splice, take 5 hits like that and splice them together, and the only way you'd know that they were different is if if you're paying attention to the time of day. Because apparently most of our hits on Microtech happen at night time. At least that's the case for the OCX time zone. But yeah, like I want more of our footage of us, you know, in conflict, you know, going up against larger groups, struggling. You know, I guess part of the problem that we've got is that a lot of our hits, we're always coming out on top. We're always winning the encounter. You know, the only time when we actually truly lose is when, you know, the server 30Ks. And we may, you know, like, lose 1 or 2 guys during the fight, but we always overcome and win the war, per se. So we may, like, lose a small part of the battle, but we always win the war. And it's not that I want to showcase a video of us losing, but I want to showcase us struggling and overcoming, you know, something that people would consider is out of our depth. And that's, you know, easier said than done, apparently. Doesn't help that most cargo haulers are solo players. You know, I'd like to do hits on other organizations again, but I'm also wary of making our fucking, you know, making members who go and infiltrate sit there for 3 hours waiting for this organization to get their shit together so that they can actually, you know, start their event. So yeah, it's one of those things. Fire at my heart is ready to infiltrate. Yeah, you say that now, Nelson. Wait until you actually have to do it, and then you're stuck there for 3 hours listening to these people trying to get their shit together. I felt bad. I felt bad for the guys that volunteered for it, thinking that, yeah, this is going to be great. This will be awesome. I'll be on the inside, you know, be able to hear all the goss and, you know, experience what it's like to be hit by Mongrel Squad. It's like 3 hours of pain for 15 minutes of action. Yeah, it's... I'm considering changing up my release tempo as well. Right now it's once every 4 days, and it doesn't seem to be doing too well with the algorithm. What I was trying to do was front load a lot of videos to create a bit of a content wave and then stagger the content releases, but it seems like I need to put a bit more distance between video releases. Either that or like just the last lot of videos just haven't been as interesting as what I thought they were. From a pirate's perspective, they're actually quite interesting because it shows technical aspects that not many people know about. Or, you know, like you can use them as an example as a pirate organization of, oh, okay, this is how these guys do this thing. You know, like the leading snare or, you know, spline snaring and things like that. Star Citizen is dead for YouTube as well. Kind of. Like, the problem is that a lot of gameplay videos of Star Citizen, they're all like just streams that people have done. And it's so easy for your video to get lost in that. I hope that answered your question there, Soriel. Guys, you get none? Yeah, there's still Star Citizen channels out there that you don't get much recommendations from. Like, who was it? Liberty Network put out a piracy video 3 days ago. When TeamSpeak? Probably not at all now, but I'll want to bring that up amongst the Mongrel Corps. Still need to talk to the Mongrel Squad senior officers about it too. You're enjoying all the new Mongrel Squad videos there? Yeah, I'm liking them too. Like, now that I've got the format, the content format for them laid out, of how I actually want them laid out, it makes editing them a lot easier. I've come up with a system in Adobe Premiere now that helps with maintaining my motivation of cutting videos up. Because you'd think that a 10-minute video, you know, wouldn't take that long to cut together, but apparently it does. It's not uncommon to spend 3 to 4 hours just doing cuts. Oh, can you? Alright. That's right, I was checking your YouTube videos. I watched one of them but then got busy. I'll check my DMs again. I'll have a look at the other videos. But for memory, when's that one? Still going to be a bit before I get to that particular video. The main part that I really want from you, Nelson, is just when you throw old mate off your ship. Because I think that'd just be a funny way of ending it. But then, you know, like, Raziel joins, you know, but he joined the Mongrel Corps. He's part of the pack rats and the cartel now. And he's either playing the long con or, but he's just like, you know what, fucking, as he said when he first joined our server, if I can't beat him, I'll join him, which is great. You know, that's exactly what we want. And he seems to be thriving too. Seems to love it, which is good. I'm glad. I'm happy for him. I'm glad that we could do that for someone. Steal their shit, make them join us, and then they have more of a better time. A 10-minute video from 5 points of view or 45 minutes of raw footage each sounds like a lot of work. Yeah, dude, I'll tell you now. And then you've got to deal with the audio issues as well, because everybody's audio is fucking different. Will there be a Mongrel Squad scarf? Maybe. Depends if Teespring puts it up there. There actually might be one. I'll have to look it up. Just looking up at what must be his wall of vids to come on residual wall of trophies. Yeah, it's... I have a very basic system. I have a whiteboard up there with what was it? Magnetic labels, where I've just written the name of the target. Thing is like, a lot of these are hits that I've been on, so it's just memories to me. Will there be an auxiliary flag? Teespring doesn't do flags, but I know Printful does, so I'd have to look at that. Stop killing the dream trophies. The trophies are in my mind. Yeah, there is some cartel merch there. Actually, I need to go back over Teespring shit, because Teespring buddy removed some items from the merch store saying that there was a copyright infringement for Star Citizen, which shouldn't have happened, especially with the auxiliaries logo, because I fucking made that logo. That is my logo. It has nothing to do with Star Citizen other than I made a Star Citizen organization featuring that logo. So why is there no vector file for the Ox logo? There should be. I'll have a look. If there's no vector file for it, then Nelson, it's because I haven't made it yet. But that shouldn't take too long for me to do. But I'm pretty sure I made one. That's how I was able to do the merch designs for it. You didn't find one? Oh. Maybe I haven't uploaded it. Is that why we can't buy the new signed flag yet? Is that why we can't buy the new signed flag yet? I need to talk to Sorrel about that one. Because I believe he's going to have a contact for that may be able to create the flags. And if they're better quality, then I'd rather do that. It's alright, Sorrel, there's no rush. But yeah. Dude's been on holiday for the summer. Yeah, that's understandable. No scarves. I'll have a look into it, King. I'm surprised Teespring doesn't have scarves there of some sort. I know they got bandanas. I need to come up with a design for it though. But Kingy, there should be a cartel beanie there. Two proofs for gamer mouse mats on the way that look great on screen. Yeah, I saw those. Saw those. Just Sorial, just for you though. Just understand that those probably won't be able to go on the store. So if you want to do that on the side, feel free to. King, it should actually be converting to euro for you. Apparently there's an ad about to start. I'm snoozing. Alright. I'm going to be calling it there for the stream now, guys. So thank you very much for coming along, everybody. 2-hour stream, reactions and rants, and all that good stuff. The next stream is going to be tomorrow night. It's supposed to be bloody flight combat stuff, but probably just jump into 320 and do shit tons of gun rush because it's fun as fuck. Thanks for, yeah. But yeah, that stream's going to be starting at 7:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time, GMT plus 10. More than likely doing gun rush. Maybe actually try and do some PTU testing as well. I think there's still some stuff going on. I want to look into distortion a little bit more too. But yeah. Before we move on and I end the stream, I want to do a raid on someone. Has anybody got any suggestions? Who's here? Anybody got any suggestions for a raid? Mike is live. Oh, he's doing reacts. Do you guys want to move on to a reacts? Go from reacting to me? You want more reacts? King wants Leslie B? Leezy B? Reacting to voiding. Like, he's got 300 and something people already watching him. Doesn't bother me either way. Prior to stream. Alright. If he's reacting, it's highly possible that he's got raids turned off though. But we'll have to, we'll wait and see. Let's see. Let's raid Salty Mike. Really, I should be pirate. We need to arrange a time to pirate him in game. Alright, thank you very much everybody for coming along. I'll catch you all at tomorrow's stream. Let's get ready to raid Mike and alright. Catch you guys tomorrow. Bye.